chili warming you up?
Yeah. Oh, so good. Sitting here stuffing my face as usual.
Well, I mean, it's chili.
Yeah, and your mom made it. How could I say no?
Absolutely.
Oh,
absolutely.
man. It's quite good.
Excellent. Glad you enjoy it. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, I don't have any crackers in order to have you enjoy that.
Well, it could be crunching anyway.
Yeah, you know what? That's absolutely fair. But getting onto that. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Donald Kaczynski back once again with the always awesome Hannah Kubiak.
Hello.
And we're back with some more the General Geekery podcast. And today we have a particular topic to talk about. Hannah, you were actually the one that picked the topic for today's episode.
Yes, we decided I was going to pick today. So we're going to talk about dystopias. What is a dystopia? And your favorite dystopia, stuff like that.
Yes.
I could talk for hours about dystopias. Just it's so cool.
From the talks that we've had, I think a lot of your favorite novels usually have dystopias in them.
Yeah, a lot of them do. Or they're just sort of there's a couple that I think about and I wonder, are they dystopias? Or are they just satires? Or what? Maybe later on we can discuss sort of is this actually a dystopia? Or is it just about something that's horrible, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Because that line is a little bit muddled at times, so
yeah,
it's always nice to look at that. So, the general definition of a dystopia.
Yeah, I was doing a little bit of research, aka YouTubing.
Yay.
Just learning about different, and also just my own knowledge of stuff, because I read a lot of these. A lot of dystopias. Dystopias are very big these days, you know?
Yeah, that's true. It's been a big thing ever since the 80s. But
yeah. In YA, there's a lot of dystopias now that people have been writing. But the thing that I could find that sort of ties a dystopia together is that a dystopia actually kind of results from trying to make a utopia, which is a perfect society.
Right, because you have utopia, which is the perfect society, people trying to find the promised land or something like that.
Yes, exactly, like heaven on earth kind of thing.
Yeah. The opposite of that would dystopia be the opposite of that almost?
I'm not sure. I think that dystopia is sort of a I don't think it's the opposite. I think it's when you take something that you're using to try and make a utopia, and you take a certain ideology or idea and just take it to an extreme. One of the very first people who wrote a dystopia was actually Swift. He wrote Gulliver's Travels.
Oh, yeah.
And it's basically talking about he visits all sorts of different places and learns about how these places seem really nice at the beginning, and then you see that there's sort of this weird, flawed underbelly to the society. So it's when you take one thing and you take it to an extreme.
Okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm. And so extreme stuff. Usually some of the main themes are there's some sort of big brother entity or character, somebody who's above all of us, watching over us, controlling us, telling us,
right,
what to do and how to live, how to exist. There's always some sort of us being monitored by a higher power, controlled and limited information is another theme.
I can think of several examples in real life for that.
Yeah, where it's sort of okay, whatever we say is the truth, it becomes the truth. One of the most famous dystopias, the book that made this genre was 1984.
Yeah.
And in 1984, there's controlled, limited information. There's the different ministries who do all of these functions to keep the society as they've made it to be.
Right.
There's the Ministry of Truth, which what they do is they sort of you go back and you make they alter historical texts to support what the party is what the party is
right.
saying, so it's
right.
like, oh
right.
well, the party just said this, but we remember, but like there's this thing in some historical text that says that the party said the opposite one time, so we got to go back and change that.
Selective information.
Yeah, selective information. So it's that's what you do. So it's like basically this like a big group of sort of elites or a party or higher ups, very small percentage of the population taking kind of having control of these like regular people, working masses, the proles as they call them, in 1984, and they do that by restricting information.
Right.
By restricting information, having sort of controlling or limiting speech and thought. So you don't have free will, or
right.
the freedom to say to speak.
Right.
And then a dystopian society always claims to be a utopia. Where it says, you see, we're like in 1984.
Yep.
It's sort of like, you see, we're making sure that everybody's all right and everybody's taken care of, and we're protecting you from the bad country that's trying to kill us all. We've been at war with this country and we're protecting you. And
right.
And they kind of keep everybody like. I think
the masses become sheep.
The masses become sheep, or like children almost. It's like
sheep,
or like
cattle,
yep.
children. Mm-hmm. Like they're completely slaves to their whims.
Yeah, like infantilization, basically. So I kind of wrote just when I decided we were going to be doing this topic, I kind of wrote down all the things that I think of when I think about dystopias, and I wrote kind of like a what do you call it? Just bullet points.
Right.
So some of the words I came up with are oppression, control, power, loss of humanity, totalitarianism, Big Brother, post-apocalypse, warped reality. Are we safe or are we trapped? No free will, no thinking, no logic. What is real? All must submit. Controlled by pleasure, controlled by addiction. Emotional morality, infantilization, going from reality to illusions and constructs, government, gangs, technology, zombies.
A dystopia of zombies? Okay, where did you get that from?
Well, that just
came into your mind?
It just came into my mind, yeah.
Oh, okay, basically from like a zombie apocalypse, like safe havens, everything like that, but everything is so ass backwards. Got it. Okay, and I understand now.
Yeah, dystopias often, they result from trying to make the world better, or they result from the world goes into a crisis, and people do extreme stuff to try and keep the world in order.
Right. In which case they end up warping it unintentionally.
Yep. Yeah. So there's
always, intentionally, depending on the case.
So there's always some sort of crisis that makes that sort of is the impetus for the dystopia. Right.
When I think of that, I think of just different examples of imagery comes into my mind of different events in history that affect dystopia things. Of course, the biggest time period for that would be around World War II when when everything was going to absolute crap town.
Yeah, the Nazis are often referred to by people as the sort of an example of
it's probably
a dystopia, a historical dystopia.
It's probably the purest form example of what can drive it to be, because that's how it started was like it was writing a nation.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it resulted in the it's so hard for me to say this because it's such a dark point in like the history of the world. But like the intentional genocide of the entire Jewish population of Germany and Poland and everything like that.
Yep.
Just the entire religious existence of an entire people.
Yeah, I think a lot of these authors who write this kind of stuff, they got a lot of ideas from that time in history because a lot of them lived through it.
Exactly,
like,
and some of them even fought through it. I mean, George Orwell, C.S. Lewis, Tolkien. We've mentioned them a lot, but like they served during that time.
Yep, they know what's up. Like, okay, so what you were just talking about, talking about Nazis and Hitler and the Holocaust and all that, and there's two authors in particular who wrote dystopias that kind of made me think of, well, of course, George Orwell, the 1984.
Right.
There's basically, they have their own version kind of the Hitler Youth. Like, it's all of these, basically what they did in the book in 1984, the party, they control the information by basically weeding out everybody who is opposing or people who are educated, who will basically say the truth.
Right.
People who aren't easily led, people who won't submit, they're sort of, they're just disappeared.
Yeah.
They just go away. You know, they make them disappear, kind of.
What? Yeah.
And so then what you're left with is you're just left with all of the people who didn't stand up, didn't object. You've got just a bunch of sheep, all of your proles and everything, and then you can tell them whatever you want. You can change history and say, like, we are responsible for keeping you safe. We've always been at war with this particular place, even though they haven't, you know.
Yeah.
So then what you get is you don't pass history on. They don't pass the history on, so nobody knows what happened in the past. So then these young people who have been sort of the next generation after this change took place, they kind of, this is all they know, is that Big Brother is good and Big Brother will take care of us, and we hate these other countries. We have to submit to these various rules. And so there's like this scene where there's these there's like a scene in the book where there's this sort of rally of all of these young people, and they're like watching a film of some sort of battle going on far away that's to protect their town or their country, Oceania. Right. And they're just going crazy, and when their enemies, the Eurasians, are seen on the screen, people like, you know, they get all riled up and they throw things at the screen and stuff. And like, yeah, just when you get a bunch of like energetic young people with a cause like that, if you are able to sort of get their mind into that mindset, you can't stop them. The youth are the future and stuff. So that was kind of the thought there. One
of my favorite examples of that sort of dystopia, I actually wrote down like a few notes about it of like dystopias that like I've seen that had an influence on me from media. Is a visual novel comic series by Alan Moore. He's you may know him better as the man responsible for writing the Batman Killing Joke comic story. He made a comic series called V for Vendetta.
Oh, V for Vendetta.
Yep, remember the 5th of November. The gunpowder treason and plots. I have no idea why the gunpowder treason should be forgot. I can't remember the whole rhyme.
Right,
but,
yeah. The 5th of November. Yep.
Yeah, but like that entire story, like that.
Is that Guy Fawkes?
Yeah, it was the guy. He was wearing the Guy Fawkes mask.
Oh,
but it wasn't
okay.
actually Guy Fawkes himself, because the story takes place in a dystopian Britain in the future, where the world was devastated, I believe, by a nuclear war, and like Britain like isolated itself, and it's a dystopian totalitarian government,
right.
where they are controlling everything. Like certain things are like banned, everything like that. I mean, one of the people in the story was he was a public figure who who was like a good civil servant and everything like that, but when he did one like small little thing that seemed like an outcry against the government, and they were going to talk to him about it, they had discovered that he had a copy of the Korah in his possession, and that is not accepted in the thing, and he's gone.
Yeah.
Never to be found again.
Yikes. Yeah. Where they just disappear you? Yeah.
Yep, exactly. And like when you were describing all that, like that was the story that popped into my head.
Yep, people getting disappeared.
Exactly. It's the small little details that like pop into your head. Like it's always certain stories.
Yep.
It's always certain stories.
Yep.
And I think you mentioned specific roles and everything like that people need to do.
Right. Yeah.
And we were talking about this novel like before we started this recording. The Giver.
Right, yeah. They tell you what that like when you're whatever age.
Yeah, when you're at whatever age, like
14, 13?
Somewhere like that.
Yeah,
it's like
it's kind of a coming
pre-adolescence. That you're assigned like different roles and everything like that.
Yeah.
Like people will work in like factories and things like that. Some women are made to be birth givers.
Right, yeah.
Which I don't think they ever went into detail like how it goes.
No, there's another book that's like a sequel that's all about one girl who that's her job. I've been looking to read that, but I don't remember what it's called.
Terrifying. We could probably find it, but like The Giver is like one of like the biggest like examples of that. And it's just like they withhold like certain information, things like that, but it's only that. And the specific scene in the book, like with roles and everything like that, was the main character's dad, who I think was it like a doctor or something like that, or a servant.
Is this the thing with the twins?
Yeah.
Oh
yeah.
Oh my gosh, that makes me so sad.
Well, we're not going to give any spoilers on that, because like I wholly recommend, like, if you have not read The Giver,
yes, read it.
It's probably one of the greatest books I ever had to read. I read it when I was in 4th grade.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, and it's such a challenging book at that age.
Oh gosh. And then are you right? There's like they don't know what war is.
They don't understand the concept of war, things like that. It's all uniformity. They don't. There's no such thing as music. Color isn't a thing. Like
it's like life is a black and white movie. That's
exactly. Which is why I'm mad about the movie, but we're not talking about that.
Yeah. Well, the thing about color is interesting, because I think one of my favorite books when I was a kid was actually the sequel to The Giver, called Gathering Blue. I have it. I should give it to you.
I've not read it.
Yeah.
I honestly should read it.
It's really good. I read it so many times when I was a kid. I think I'll read it when I get home. Gosh.
All right.
Yeah, because I've had that book for ages, and I just, every time sometimes you go through stuff and you're like, all right, I got to get rid of things. I'm like, no, I can't get rid of Gathering Blue.
Yeah, exactly. Well, there's some books you can't get rid of, but you just can't get rid of because you haven't attached to them. Like, I've never given away a book.
What?
I've never given away.
Are you serious?
There's a box in this house of all my old Dr. Seuss novels.
Holy crap, man!
Which my mother reads to her daycare kids.
Aww.
So we keep it specifically for the younger generation.
Oh man! Oh, speaking of books, another one is Fahrenheit 451.
Oh yeah.
And that also kind of is sort of inspired by Nazi things, because the Hitler Youth used to have like book burnings and stuff. And they were just like, and one of my favorite books. It's not a dystopia really, but The Book Thief. I love it. It's about this girl who steals a book from a book burning and how she could be, penalized for that and stuff.
Right.
But yeah, the Fahrenheit 451 books are forbidden because books contain information, and they contain self-expression and creativity. And what this society wants is for people to stay apathetic and docile, like sheep, basically, have short attention spans, mindlessness, like there's, they all, like the wife of the protagonist, has, I think what does she do? She has like, basically a media addiction. Like she's constantly listening to the radio, and 3 walls in her room, in the house, are these giant screens, and
right,
like she's never not there, and she's like she never really talks to him because she's always like plugged in,
That kind of explains a lot of like that explains a lot of media today, actually. Like people are so plugged into like so many different things.
Yeah.
Be like the Matrix. Unplug.
Yeah. Oh man, yeah. But yeah, information is controlled in this story too. Yeah, and it's sort of like I read this book recently, and it sort of like explains why we need art, because people say, oh, art isn't necessary. It's like, well, it is for your soul. It makes us individuals, and all that, because without it, we're all just the same, I guess, which is kind of another theme in this, is that everybody has to be the same.
Yeah, that speaks really true.
And if you stand out, you have to be either like assimilated or disappeared,
And unfortunately, like stuff like that happens in school and everything like that. Like in most public schools today, today's it's just like you are a good student, you follow and everything like that, or if you're somewhere outside the norm, like you're almost tossed aside. Like if you're not an honor student, if you don't play in any like sports leagues or anything like that,
disabilities or something.
If you have learning disabilities or anything like that, then it's like you're almost cut out. And unfortunately, like that's what happens. Like unfortunately, I was one of those kids that was like plugged in and like just to be like a good student and everything and all of that. But it was when high school, like I started to realize for myself, I'm like, what the heck am I doing? So unfortunately, like these ideas that represent like what a dystopia is like almost ingrained in our society,
right?
Where like you need like arts and like everything like that in order to like give compassion and things like that.
Yeah.
Even if it's things like whether you like to draw, whether you like to sing, whether you like to act or anything like that. Even if it's simply just playing a game, like that's expression.
Yep.
That's what we live for. We live to express. Expression is love. Expression is just enjoyment. Expression is rage and everything. Like you're expressing. Emotion makes us individuals.
Yeah. So I think
you lobotomize emotions.
Yeah.
What is there?
Yeah, and like, there's emotions, and also I think also just your mind, using your mind in general, just using your mind and listening to your heart are things that we all need to do. It's just like, and for a dystopia to work, the underlings, the proles, they are
the flying monkeys.
Yeah, they're not allowed to think or feel, and that's how the powerful overlords perpetuate their state, and their control.
I think that's why in like most dystopia things, like recently, like with underlings, it's not just mainly like humans or anything like more. It's like It's like robots that are able to be like programmed in order to carry out and things like that have no free will.
Right. Yeah. So when it goes into the realm of science fiction as well, you've got all sorts of other things.
Like science fiction, like in general, has taken like the concept of like dystopias and like upgraded it to like a whole new dimension.
Right.
Like,
oh man, yeah.
Like the Empire in Star Wars.
Yeah.
You want to talk about it? I believe that is like...
That's a pretty on the nose tip of the hat to Nazi Germany, actually.
Well, yeah, of course.
And the clones and everything.
Of course, because I mean, like, I lost my train of thought for a second. Holy crap!
No worries, I have something.
My brain snapped.
I broke his mind. Let's talk about Aldous Huxley's Brave New World. Have you read that?
I have not.
Oh, let me tell you about it.
I've heard of this. I've heard this novel in passing. Like, I know how influential it is. I have not read it. There's a lot of different books I have not read.
Okay. This is very I like to when talking about this, I like to sort of just leave it up to other people's interpretations, what they see kind of coming to the surface in their own lives, you know? Like you can make connections between fiction and reality all the time. That's what it's supposed to do, is this kind of like 1984 is said to have been sort of like a what is the word? Prophetic work or something. Well, not really in the sort of religious way, but just oh my gosh.
But like the influence that the impact it has had. I mean,
like he predicted things that people see in their own lives. And that's kind of why dystopias really get to us, is because we see, oh man, this is like this aspect of my life. But if it was taken to an absolute extreme, and if this one thing was held above all else. But anyway,
exactly.
I don't know why I went off on that tangent there, but Brave New World, which I read recently, it basically what it's about is it's about this society where people are genetically engineered for their roles in society. So, like, literally what they do is they make people are the social status is pre-decided at before you're even created. So they've got human beings down to a science, where they've got farms where they make the humans in test tubes. And they say, okay, here we go. There's like the first chapter is a tour of one of these farms. Okay. It's like, here we go. Here is a little set here. We've got all of these tubes here. These are all alphas. They've been given the right chemicals so that their brains work well, so that they are, strong and healthy and attractive. Let's move on. And then there's and then it goes down the stratum up to I think it's epsilons. Are like, they take those ones, and from really tiny, just in a test tube, they're like, okay, and these are the epsilons, and what we do is we put certain chemicals in here to cause some retardation in their brains and stuff, so that and then they say, and at a certain point while they're growing, we actually sort of decrease the amount of oxygen that goes to them, so that they're less intelligent, less capable of thought, so that they're smaller and more deformed. And these are the people who do sort of grunt work,
Oh my god!
So,
I'm actually getting mad at this concept.
Yeah, so they're creating people based on what they need them to do in the society. So you can't. So you don't have a choice. You're like, okay, so from the moment that I was created by these people farmers, they decided that I was going to be they deformed me and stunted my brain, and so I can't they can't even really think very well. They're mentally challenged people, but they were meant to be, and then they're used,
You're literally taking the concept of destiny and raising it to the utmost.
Yes, exactly. Like playing God, making people how you want them to be. And so what it's about is...
oh my... I feel sick.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's a great book. It's one of my sister's favorite books, actually.
I'm gonna have to read. I'm probably gonna get sick during the reading of it, but I'm gonna have to read it now.
I have it. I can loan it to you.
Okay.
But what happens in this story is there's these people who they're sort of living in their bubble, where in the city they're taken care of, and they have their sort of status that they're supposed to have and everything. But then there's a place outside of the walls, and I don't remember exactly what it's called. I think maybe it was the reservation, and that was where the savages lived. So these were all people who they live basically the way that at the time when the book was being written, the way that people live normally. So like children are born normally, and people get sick, people die, people don't have they can't escape to these sort of like drug comas that people put themselves into, and they're like, like the people also in the city, okay, they are they're basically they're all completely sterilized at also as part of being created. So it's like, all right, no one can exist unless we at the farm decide to make them,
That's wow.
Yeah. And so they're all sterilized. They are all basically drugged up to be happy all the time. And if you start to sort of decline or have like thoughts about, stuff that's contrary to what the higher ups want, they're like, all right, here's some more drugs, it'll make you happy, you'll stop being discontented. And so,
oh god, it's like antidepressant medicine if it was on steroids.
Yep, exactly. So everybody is dosed up and compliant, and but out on the reservation, people don't have anything like that. And there's basically, it's the story of a savage.
Oh god.
Who they bring him to the inner city as sort of like a spectacle. Him and his mother, who actually, she lived in the city, and somehow through some freak accident she actually ended up getting pregnant. And then this guy that she was the guy that she was sleeping with at the time was like a higher up, and he was like, oh, well, we can't have this, we got to get rid of her. And so he took her to the reservation and left her there, so no one would know that the system was flawed, basically. And ridiculous. And then it's about this guy who he's a savage, and he's read Shakespeare's works and stuff, and he has all of these thoughts about what love is and everything, and there isn't such a thing as love either, really, in the city. They sort of are just like, well, just as our, basically people are sort of expected to sort of have these sort of meaningless one-night stands sort of thing as part of socialization and stuff. And they're like, oh, yes, I saw him on Tuesday, and I'm seeing somebody else on Wednesday and stuff. And, you're not really allowed to get attached to anybody, really.
Right.
And so this guy from the reservation, I think his name is John, they bring him back to the city because there's this one guy who he thinks something's wrong in the city, and he wants to show them. So he brings this savage back. And it's all his thoughts and stuff, and basically there's this girl who tries to seduce him, and she's just like, it'll be fun. He's like, but we don't love each other, and she's like, she can't understand. She's like, and she's like, but that doesn't matter. I mean, it's just, and it's
it's like a really messed up Elephant Man.
Yeah, no, it's insane. Where they bring this savage, and he's basically. He's the normal one. Yeah, I can't believe this.
If it was our world, he would be completely. He would be like one of us.
Yeah, exactly.
Good God.
Yeah, and he's following his heart and everything, and he becomes ostracized for it, basically, because he won't take any of the drugs. He won't do.
Right.
He wants to he falls in love with this woman, but she's not interested in him the way he is in her, and. He won't take the drugs. He's disgusted by the fact that people are predestined to have this sort of like in the test tubes and stuff. It's just ridiculous, and it's such a good story.
Good God, yeah.
And
Hannah is writing down my reading material for the next year.
Oh, yeah.
She's unintentionally writing down my reading material for the next year with just this podcast alone.
Yeah, and that kind of, I guess, ties into one of the things that I wrote down here was people controlled by pleasure and controlled by addiction, where it's kind of like, well, okay, we just stay drugged up all the time, and the fact that like suffering is part of the human experience, kind of isn't really accepted. Like, you're supposed to just be, even keel the whole time, just happy and blissful and slightly distant, and malleable, controllable,
Good God.
But if you I think it might, I don't remember where it's from. Actually, it might be from Star Trek, but there's something where it's like we have a right to be angry, and we have a right to be discontented, and we have a right to be upset about things. And it's like, no, everything's fine. Be happy. Have some uppers. It's like, no, I want to suffer because it's part of who I am. It's part of being human. And
that sounds like something Star Trek.
Yeah, one of those things where they defy the Prime Directive once again.
Indeed.
Yeah. Oh, man. I could talk about this for ages.
Indeed. You've done most of the talking this episode. I'm not going to lie. I don't want to interject because, just... You speaking with just, such passion and eloquence. I'm just I'm just captivated. I'm literally...
Gosh.
Damn.
Yeah. But yeah,
it's all the Hannah show right now. Damn.
But yeah, I got a lot of things here, Logan, I'm just gonna briefly say some things here, like Logan's Run.
Oh,
is a story about where people, what age is it? Where when they reach the age of 21, they are killed because old age is undesirable.
I think so. Is it? I forget if Logan's Run was Logan's Run. I know 1984 was, but was Logan's Run also one of the novels that also inspired Blade Runner?
I don't think so. I read Logan's Run, and I read Blade Runner is based off of Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep.
That one and 1984. That's right. Mm-hmm. That's right. Okay, that was the other one that I was thinking.
And yeah, Blade Runner is another one that I have written down here. Oh, so good.
Yeah.
It's just
absolutely.
What is it? The androids are a lower class kind of thing? Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the finest pieces of media ever put to film.
Oh man, so good. And yeah, I read that also, I was on this sort of dystopia binge kind of thing, I guess.
Yeah.
I read that and I watched Blade Runner, and oh man, so good.
One of the finest films ever put on film. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
Yep.
I've said it before. Man. I've said it again. I don't think I even need to say it a third time.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. But yeah, that sort of... And yeah, Blade Runner, it had that whole, what's real and what's not real sort of thing, where the androids are are you a real person?
Right.
Or are you human? Or are you dancer? Yeah.
That's a big thing that is usually done with most androids and a lot of digital media is just self-discovery and it's so God,
what makes something human?
The concept of individuality.
Yeah, the concept of individuality. Yep.
I thrive on stories like those.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Whew.
It's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing.
Oh, man. Here's one. This is one of my favorites. And it's a very, very subtle sort of dystopia. It's called Never Let Me Go.
Okay.
And it was written by this Japanese man who lives in England. So it's very English.
Okay.
Written by Katsuo Ishiguro.
When was this written?
Oh gosh, I don't remember. I don't know, 50s, 60s. I'm not sure.
Okay.
But there's a movie of it with there's a movie of it with Carey Mulligan, Andrew Garfield, and Keira Knightley, and
okay,
it's about these people who it starts when they're children,
okay,
and they are clones who have been created to be organ donors for people.
Oh, one of those ones.
Yeah. So basically, they live kind of a normal life, you know. Well, not really normal, but they grow up in a boarding school. They're sort of, you know, taken care of. They're sent to basically farms and hostels to live and stuff. And then at a certain point, you get called in to make a donation, and each clone really only makes about 3. Like, it's usually either like a kidney or an eye, and then the third donation they usually take some sort of vital organ or something, like your heart.
Oh man,
so,
it's oh god, it's like a more extreme version of My Sister's Keeper.
Yeah, exactly. So they are asking. So it's kind of about these. It's about these clones kind of trying to find, like, trying to live as much of their life as possible, because they know that they don't have very much time, basically. And it's about these two that fall in love with each other, and it's kind of like they're like, well, I want to be with you as long as possible, and so they think they've found this loophole, and it's about them trying to get basically more time.
Right.
And yeah, oh gosh, the last words of the book are really, oh man, they're really, really dark. I'm trying to remember what it is, but yeah, we'll look that up really quick. But it's one of my favorites just because you think of a dystopia as being, it's so subtle. Like, you don't know what's going on at first, and then you're like, wait a minute.
Yeah. Then you notice something's off, because like with us and like as you grow older and like perceptions change. Like as a kid, like you're innocent and everything like that, and you accept all information like it's you're a sponge. But as you grow older, like, and you start to question more things, like your perception changes, and like things are not always what they seem, how you perceive them.
Yeah.
And like for those people that always wish like things were the way they were, that's like the infantilism like aspect like breaking in.
Yeah.
Like that's the docile nature that they want to. New things frighten them.
Yep. Yeah.
Oh my god.
Oh my gosh.
The intensity of this. Like, good God.
Yeah.
And that's the crazy thing is like, even with like the overall aspect of dystopias in like general media, like almost every story that I can think of utilizes an aspect of a dystopia, like one way or another. It usually takes one aspect and just takes it to the extreme.
Yeah. Oh man, still trying to find that.
While Hannah's searching that for the moment, oh my god, I have to talk about this one thing that I watched that's also a dystopia. I talked about this. I talked about this franchise when we were doing the sci-fi episode, and I'm gonna mention it again. Ghost in the Shell. The entire world that it settles in is like a dystopian world. Like, yes, like humans are becoming more cyborg-esque and everything like that, but the concept of individualism is constantly questioned, and the lines of morality are always blurred.
Yeah.
Because like it's just like government control, more like morality, socialism, things like that, like all thrown into like constant questioning.
Yeah.
And it's stories like that where you question your where it could be following a single person.
Right.
And when they question, like, when they start questioning, they become self-aware. They try to find their own identity and things like that. I love stories like those because it offers such a perspective, especially depending on, like, the age of, like, the main protagonist. Like, you have, like, again, back to The Giver, where the main character was only just, like, 13, 14. And he experiences all these different feelings, like compassion, love, pain, grief, sadness, enjoyment, enjoyment, and that's what starts opening his eyes to like the reality that is around him, and like he's trying to explain it to those he knows, and they can't understand.
Yeah,
that's what got me like that with the story you're talking about with the Savage. I'm like, oh my god, why? Why do they tug my heartstrings like this? Why?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Okay, I found it.
You did?
Yeah. So these clones in Never Let Me Go, they there was this sort of. Oh, this is interesting, too. There were these people who they were sort of doing some experiments on the clones and stuff, trying to sort of, and they said, well, we were trying to, we weren't trying to really prove that you had a good soul or anything like that. We were trying to prove that you had souls at all, really.
Wow.
Yeah, and so when they make their donations, it's like the first donation, the second donation, and then after the third donation, that's what they call when you complete, basically, which means you die.
Okay.
So you kind of need to know that for the quote, but it says like, I remind myself I was lucky to have had any time with him at all. What I'm not sure about is if our lives have been so different from the lives of the people we save. We all complete. Maybe none of us really understand what we've lived through or feel we've had enough time. So, I don't know. That just kind of gets me.
Damn.
Like thinking like, oh my gosh, like no matter how long your life is, part of you is going to still think you didn't have enough time to do everything you wanted to. And I guess that just kind of like that same story could happen with people like you and me, people who have the regular lifespan. You know, you can live through 80 years and be like, oh my gosh, I wish that I'd done this, or I wish that I had told him I loved him, or I wish that I'd done this. But it's just sort of, again, I think that Never Let Me Go is kind of like, it takes morality.
Yeah.
You know, like our fear of being mortal and our fear of death.
Right.
And it just accelerates the timeline a little bit. Kind of like just takes it to an extreme. So that's kind of what dystopias do, is they take one little thing that's perfectly normal in our society within moderation, but then it makes it the most extreme thing. So that's great. But Never Let Me Go, it's one of my favorites.
I'm gonna have to look into that. That was so touching.
But yeah, I own Brave New World and Never Let Me Go, and I think I have Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep.
I've read that one.
Yeah,
that one I've read.
That's a good one. But yeah, I mean,
wow,
that's my spiel about dystopias and how much I love them and how much they have to say to us. So I guess what I would say is like, keep using your brain, keep thinking, keep questioning, keep using your heart, and keep your geek on.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Keep thinking and keep feeling and keep being an individual, creative human being. There you go.
Brought a tear to my eye.
Really? Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I'm actually like welling up.
No.
Oh my god, that was, and actually that quote got me.
Oh yeah.
That quote was like, and honestly, I think that's the perfect way to just finish this episode off. Mm-hmm. That's also probably going to be the title.
Yeah.
Well, like, damn.
Mm-hmm.
Like, wow. Thank you for this journey.
Of course.
Wow.
I had fun.
Yeah.
This is one of my my pet topics. So
glad
I got to.
I'm glad
about it.
I'm glad you shared on it, because wow, that was wow.
All right.
Oof. I was but a student to the master.
Soon,
today.
Grasshopper, you will receive the sacred texts.
Arigato, sensei.
Sacred texts of Huxley and Ishiguro.
I love it. I love it. All right, that. I think we can wrap it up with that.
I think so too.
That was such an educational episode.
I feel educated too.
Yeah.
To be honest.
Yeah. No kidding.
Half of learning is teaching other people. To be honest. So.
Amen.
All right.
Amen.
So, shall we do our where we can find us stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. You can always I can do words today. You can always follow us on Facebook at the General Geekery Podcast. You can also listen to us on Spotify and Spreaker at the General Geekery Podcast as well. Make sure to share it with your friends and your family if you like everything that we do. To always keep your geek on. Spread the geeky love. Spread it around.
Yep.
Hannah, where can they find you at?
Well, you can find me. You can find me in my Dungeons and Dragons campaign, Loaded Dice Adventures, every Monday at 7:30 Central Time. Mm-hmm. You can find that at twitch.tv/Loaded Dice Adventures. And you can also find me on Instagram at Pythian Legume. And where can they find you, Donald?
They can find me on my Twitch channel at Ryuzaki MK7, and that is also my username for both Twitter and Instagram as well. And that's pretty much all of that right now. I'll probably be sharing some more stuff soon and everything like that, but for now, we can keep it simple like that, because everything all that. Again, special shout out to the Twilight, Andy Wagner, for providing the intro and outro music for the podcast. Muchas gracias again. So yeah, that I feel enlightened. I feel enlightened from this episode. So Hannah, thank you again for choosing the topic today. This was great.
Awesome.
Cheers.
Clink clink.
Indeed.
Cheers.
To the great brew of coffee.
The great brew.
The discussion of dystopias.
Yes. All right, everybody. Stay human.
And always remember, keep your geek on.
Keep your geek on.
Love you, everybody. Never stop feeling.
Never surrender. Bye.